Hey friends, it's Jen. Thank you for tuning in and welcome back to Homes That Heal. I am over the moon to share with you the conversation I had recently with my dear friend Alex Hartinger. Full disclosure, we recorded this on the morning of July 4th, and that was not an accident. Alex and I are both deeply loyal and in love with our country and freedom, and felt it only made sense for us to let freedom ring together. In addition to her glowing vibe and infectious energy, Alex has an amazing story of how she stepped into the wellness world, restored her son's health, and why she's deeply passionate to teach you how to rise and shine. I often share her story because it's so inspiring, and I just think everyone needs to hear it. For the Kathy Heller Collective ladies listening who shared dinner with me last month in LA, tune in. This is the woman and story I was telling you about. Alex is a clinical nutritionist who owns Symmetry Natural Health, a successful natural health practice in central Wisconsin. She's nationally known in the health and wellness space and has worked with thousands over the last 11 years. She's also a certified health coach, nutritional therapy practitioner, and a certified morphogenic field technique practitioner who has mentored and consulted individuals as well as health practicing businesses for many years. She holds a business degree in economics and has worked in the corporate world prior to pursuing her passion in natural health. She's a published author in the best-selling Wake Up series and Embrace. She's a strong health advocate and speaker for rallies at the state capitol, as well as local and national events. She's also the wild visionary and founder of Soulset Rising, a holistic mindset-based coaching program that includes the dynamics of natural health, lifestyle, and the emotions within a collective of other growth-minded women. They learn to design and curate a vision, get into and stay in alignment with their purpose and joy, and have a ton of fun while doing it. She's an expert on mindset and creating a life of feeling free, and her heart is lit to teach you how to step into the best version of yourself. Overall, Alex is honestly a wealth of knowledge and one of my absolute favorites. If you know her or have been around her, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Outside of her work, she's a mom of 2 amazing boys, spoils the hell out of her cats, plus enjoys a consistent amount of time at the gym. She's wicked smart, hilarious, and every time we get together, we riff for hours. I love her fire, her determination, and our friendship, and I have no doubt you'll want to connect with her too. Today, we're going to learn a lot about supporting and nourishing your body, how she healed her firstborn son from autism, and why we share a deep passion to create a life and health of happiness. So without further ado, please welcome my high vibe friend, Alex Hartinger. Are you struggling with low energy, weight gain, hormonal imbalances, or heavy metal and mold toxicity? Do you want to learn more about anti-aging tips and creating more longevity in your life? Well, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Jen Heller, a wellness educator, infrared sauna expert, and home health consultant. In this podcast, Homes That Heal, I will teach you how to transform your home into a health and wellness sanctuary. Your health is your wealth, and I believe that your home should be your sanctuary space, loaded with the tools you need to thrive in your life, not just survive. If you want to feel fantastic and transform your life and home, grab a pen, let's dive in and create a home that heals. Welcome back, friends. Today, Alex, I'm here with one of my friends. I'm so excited for everyone to meet you. Oh my gosh. We were chatting just for a couple minutes prior to this and talking about all the things that we're going to chat about today. Super excited. Today is 4th of July, Independence Day. Let freedom ring, as I like to say every day, but today is extra special. So I thought today was the perfect day for you and me to chat, since you are by far one of the most bright lights and freedom-loving mamas that I know. And you have an epic story that we're going to chat about, but I'm so grateful that you took time out of your day today to join me. So basically, for everyone listening, if you don't know Alex, she runs Symmetry Natural Health in central Wisconsin, and we have been friends for a very long time. We have quite a few things in common. We went to the same nutrition school. Like, we both walked away from corporate jobs years ago to chase a dream of natural health and helping and serving others. And so without further ado, I'm going to give you the floor to introduce yourself, say hello, and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you love natural health.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. And thank you for doing this because you have such an amazing network that you can help everyone else start to integrate into, which is amazing. I feel like there was definitely not a chance that we weren't going to be friends because there was so many, like multiple ways that our paths crossed, which is amazing. And then we just always can just pick up everything and be totally in alignment. So yeah, I mean, my story started a little bit just before I met you. And I lived the opposite of how I live now, which kind of get into, but I lived the opposite of this. So I just like standard American diet. When I got pregnant, I didn't ask any questions. I just didn't think any differently than anything that was very mainstream. And people say that they like their kids change them and everything else, but I have this like massive catalyst because I knew that I needed to help my son, and I just somewhere deep down knew that I could, but I didn't know how. So when my oldest son just turned 12, and when he was born, he just had so many issues, cognitive, digestive. He wasn't bonding. We didn't have eye contact, just very distressed. And so I was constantly invalidated in the medical system by really nice, well-meaning people, right? But it was just like, you're a first-time mom, he'll grow out of this, and this is normal. And you just, as a mom, you know what's normal and what's not normal. And we could see these things, but as a baby, it's hard because they aren't already walking and talking for you to see regressions or for you to see major damage or issues. But we were seeing that in our own son because we were open and paying attention to it. So at a very young age, I think he was 3 months when we started with clinical nutrition. I was working in corporate at the time, and we started to just shift everything in our lives because finally someone could give me answers about what was going on. And it was only a couple months into that journey of starting to help him that I realized I was put on earth to do this. And he was my wake up factor. I'm pretty sure Mac and God had a conversation and we're like, okay, all right, Mac, your mom's just been down there just doing whatever. And now you're going to go and these things are going to happen, but she's going to help you through it. And then you guys are going to, go share it with everyone and try to get people kind of to be open to doing things their own way. So my philosophy is never to like tell anyone anything. It's just to kind of ask questions, give perspective, and share things. Because like we're talking about freedom, right? Like today is 4th of July. Like I am all about freedom, all kinds of freedom, right? Like bodily autonomy, just like doing and saying what we want, time freedom, financial freedom, all the kinds of freedom that you can possibly imagine. But what that comes down to is that no one's freedom looks the same, their definition of success and freedom. So my perspective is like, I started my natural health practice then when my son was 1. And I've seen just over 4,000 clients in the past 11 years and was able to meet some amazing mentors along the way. And I was the second person in the country to teach what I do and just building upon seeing what was happening. So anyway, I ended up fully recovering my son from autism over the years. If you met him now, you would have no idea where he came from. And he's just a very special soul. I mean, all of the kids are, and they're all different, but his purpose was to like wake me up, and now he's going to go do what he's going to do with his life and just be incredible and awesome. He just turned 12, so he is still sleeping. Like
we're waiting for him to, we're waiting for him to make his arrival. Yeah.
He's
going to steal the show here.
So Mac's version of freedom these days is like stay up late, wake up late. I literally woke up at 12:30 a.m. the other night and I could hear him lifting weights. And I was like, Mac, you gotta go to bed, buddy. Literally,
you could all take a lesson from him. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
He's so funny. So he was my thing that just completely shifted my life. And so interestingly, in the beginning, I was definitely very strict up on what it was going to look like to do what needed to happen to change his life. And then as we've kind of shifted back into what we want our lives to look like in freedom, I'm actually not a purist at all, which is kind of one of the things that I'm known for. But because we have the mindset that we have and because we live the lifestyle that we live, I'm the healthiest and happiest I've ever been in my entire life. And my kids definitely could eat a little better sometimes. But they know,
we all, let's be honest, couldn't we all
know what's going to help them. And they know, so like my version of Homes That Heal is like, of course I have my sauna in the house, but we use supplements and we use food and we use nutrition and we use homeopathy and herbs, taking control of our own health and lives.
So many things that you said in the last few minutes I love, and I can completely resonate with we all kind of have, I don't want to say like a warning shot or this pivotal moment where we just know we need to go another path. And for you, obviously, Mac was the catalyst. He was the thing, so to speak, that came to you. And I love the fact that you said that he and God had a conversation before they came. We're like, okay, we're going to go talk to this lady and she's going to be my mom. And I'm going to teach her the way. So I love that story. That's so fun. But yeah, obviously I knew you when you had Max. So I can definitely say I'm one of those people who knew him shortly after born and where he is now. Talking about the fact that he's deadlifting in the middle of the night at 12 years old is hilarious to me. Yeah. It's also a testament to you as a mom who's obviously instilling the importance of taking care of yourself and incorporating some movement and routine and, just taking care of your body. So you've got this stuff in your house, right? Homeset Heal is all about creating a space that harmonizes your life. And for you, I know you're big into the fitness world as well and take your workouts and your regimen seriously, which is a huge testament to who you are as well. Okay, guys, I have something super exciting to share with you. I created a home wellness checklist especially for you to transform your home into a personal wellness sanctuary. The checklist includes a list of actionable steps to clear out the clutter, create a dedicated space for movement and mindfulness, ways you can clean up your air and water quality, how to bring in more nature and natural light to the space, plus suggestions and ideas for health and healing tools. It's all there in one easy to-do list. It's simple, it's free, it's fun, and it's available at jenhillerlifestyle.com. Also, if you haven't already done so, you want to check out the Jen Recommends page on the site as well. It's loaded with my favorite books, wellness tools, and quite frankly, it's literally all the things in my own home. So if you're curious about what I love and what I use, it's chock full. My cleaning products, the towels I use in my sauna, the sheets on my bed, the high vibe frequency leggings I'm obsessed with, it's all there. Plus, if you're wondering who my go-to connections are for leveling up my life and living abundantly, check out the connections page. It's a direct link to a few of my favorite people and resources. Overall, if you know me well, you know I'm deeply passionate about living a joyful, aligned life. And it's so important to harmonize our homes so we can live in this abundant space every day. It's where we rest, restore, dream, manifest, and create memories with your family. It should be your sacred space. So if you're ready to get rid of the low vibe energy, feel inspired, and excited to elevate your life, go to jenhillerlifestyle.com and download the Home Wellness Checklist to create your home that heals. Obviously, we don't have all day, but tell me a little bit about, or tell the listeners, like, what are some of the things that you can pick out that you shifted right away? I know supplements was a big piece of it, but like, walk me through a little bit about what that looked like over the course of a few years.
Yeah. Okay. And for me, it was like the course of a few weeks because
Go
I
definitely get that.
I know. I don't dip my toes into anything. I just jump if I'm going. I also I even tell my clients, I'm like, don't do that necessarily, like, unless you're right. But I had the support. Well, for one thing, my ex-husband was deployed at the time. So it was me and this baby and our 3 dogs. And so in the house, I started to just open up my mind to like, okay, I don't know what the issue is, but if there's a chance it's related to any of these things, it cannot hurt to change to a better option or to an option that might be healthier. And I like to think of now, I didn't know this back then, but now I think of the immune system like a bucket, and your body, it gets stuff, it dumped into the bucket, and then the body dumps the bucket. And so you have toxins and the body dumps the bucket. You get sick, you process that, your body dumps the bucket. You eat bad food, your body dumps the bucket. You have emotional stress, your body dumps the bucket. But when your bucket gets full, then all of a sudden you have these symptoms. And then people will often think, well, I didn't have an issue with that thing before. It's like, well, because it's in the bucket. And so now the bucket's full. So it is an issue and it wasn't before. So it's like an atomic habits thing, right? Where it's like all these little things that add up, which is super interesting for me because I'm not the most consistent or disciplined person. I am now, way more than I was then. But what we did is we first really just switched over to organic food almost completely. We got rid of a lot of inflammatory foods at the time. Now, we're not gluten-free anymore, dairy-free or anything like that. We try to choose really good options of those things, but food was the number one thing. And then just kind of like the chemical piece, learning about how different scents can be like endocrine disruptors. If they can disrupt the endocrine system and people, that triggers because that's like hormones and fertility and all of that. But what else is it doing in the body? And with the gut, when you think about like what's in the food supply, and I think one of the resistance that I get is that our organic standards in this country aren't very good. But the thing is that it's a far cry from conventional, and that things like what they're putting on our food, like lettuce that's literally washed in dry cleaning fluid. But let's just take Roundup, for example, which is just glyphosate. And so it's actually an herbicide and it works on a shikimate pathway. And so the idea then is that plants have a shikimate pathway and humans don't. So therefore, safe because it only works on the plants, but then it doesn't work on the human. But guess what else has that pathway? Bacteria. What is our gut? Bacteria. So why are these things causing issues? Because it's using that pathway in the gut and creating all these other issues. And then it breaks down into aminomethylphosphonic acid, which, not to get like too deep into this, but the metabolite of those things, they say, oh, it breaks down. It sure does, into another thing that's bad for you that actually inhibits the body's ability to make white blood cells. So the food was a big one for me, and I learned that pretty quickly. And then just got rid of like a lot of the more harsh cleaning supplies, switched over deodorant, perfumes, that kind of stuff, which I did all at once because I'm like, this just seems silly to me to like use it up. But it was kind of funny because at the time I was married. And so when my ex would come home from deployments, he'd be like, okay, Alex, like, do we still wear deodorant though? And like, where's the food? Like,
what's all this new stuff? Yeah, where'd half my things go?
But the other cool part about that is that he wouldn't see our son for 3 to 5 months at a time. And so we were still seeing missed milestones, but he could see the improvements every time he left.
Oh, interesting.
Because if you're in the day-to-day, you might miss it or think, Alex, this, switching this one thing out isn't going to make enough of a difference. But over the course of time, it did. And so he got to see that very obviously, which is, I think.
Oh, really interesting. Yeah. What an interesting perspective. I've never thought of that, but you're so right. And we measure that as humans, even if you're like doing weight loss or you have fitness goals or, working on relationship stuff, because we're in it every day and walking by the mirror every day. You're like, okay, maybe. But then somebody sees you or somebody sees your kids after 6 months and they're like, whoa, okay, something's different there.
Yeah.
So that's a very interesting perspective. That's also confirmation and was giving you confirmation along the way. Like, okay, we're on the right path. This is working. Something's working. He's responding. Other people are seeing, I should say other people as his dad, but you know what I mean? Like others are seeing it and noticing it and giving me the thumbs up that we're going in the right direction. I also like that you talked about the things in your home. Like that's one of the things I'm super passionate about is teaching, because people come to me all the time. They're like, Jen, where do I start? Well, if you're like me and you can throw everything out and start over. Like that's definitely something I do, but you can just start looking at your cleaning supplies, looking at the fragrance, looking at the things you put in and on your body and around your body. What is the laundry detergent you're using because you sleep in those sheets and you wear those clothes every day? Literally, you have to just take a step back and think through, like, what am I completely surrounding myself with every day? What kind of stuff am I sitting on? What kind of stuff am I wearing? What am I putting in my hair that goes right into my scalp? What kind of makeup am I putting on? Okay, it's in my bloodstream in 11 seconds because it's sitting on my skin. Like, yowza. Huge, like everywhere. Yeah. So from there, obviously, you quit your job. Tell me about symmetry. Tell me about that's one of your pride and joy.
It's funny because it's when you have a baby and then you think, okay, I love this baby so much. How could you have another baby and love it? And I remember thinking that I was pregnant with my second, like, how am I going to love this baby as much as the first baby? And so I have had my symmetry baby for 11 years and recently had another baby named Soul Set Rising, which is a mindset coaching program. And it's so funny because it's like your heart just opens up for more. You don't give less love to one or the other. So symmetry is still absolutely my firstborn when it comes to that world. The tools that we used to help Mac really are the same tools that help anyone with anything. Healthcare conversation is as simple or as complicated as we want to make it. I am a very solution-based practice. And so honestly, one of the biggest parts about what I do is educating people around the problem-based paradigm that we've been conditioned into, because 80% of Western medicine is diagnosing. And then it does help to be validated in what you're experiencing. I no doubt about that. And there's validation that there's something actually going on and all those things. But that diagnosis doesn't actually get you anything other than, okay, I'm not crazy, right? But then what do we want? So I'm very solution-based. So I care 20% about the problem and 80% about what does your body want to do about it. And so people will come to me and they'll be like, have you looked at things this way? And I'm like, that's interesting perspective, but what does the body want to do about it? I still firmly believe that I have all the solutions. I mean, from the natural perspective in the natural world, and I'm still open to getting new things and learning new things. But if you can ask your body from the perspective of whole food nutrition, herbs, homeopathy, energy medicine, nutraceuticals, and say, what does the body need to do to be well from a foundational perspective and a clinical perspective? That's what I do in practice. So because of the way that we approach it, we can help people from like just overall wellness all the way to fertility and chronic pain and digestive issues and headaches and skin conditions. Chronic, acute. I really love the acute side. And so a lot of people end up, once they get to know me, they'll come to me first for just about anything, whether it's colds and flus or whatever you want to call it. I don't label things because I'm not a doctor, but a lot of times they can avoid needing over the counters or other things that we know we have to also recover from. That's like a second recovery process. It might get you through a little quicker, but then we have to recover from that on the other side of it. And I look at the damage that things like birth control or Tylenol as a child or antibiotic use has done to our generation now. And so it's cool to be able to say like, hey, there's another way for your kids, but also like we can kind of clean up some of this stuff that's going on with you. So my philosophy is give the body the tools that it needs to do what it's supposed to do. And that fits differently into everybody's lives. So I have some people who come and see me every week or every other week for a long time. And I have other people that are like, as soon as I fix their issue, they're gone. And I might see them again, or next thing you know, a year later, they told someone to come in because everything was like better. So, but interestingly, leading into what I know your next question is going to be, is
I don't even need to prop it up.
I know. Over the course of the years.
It's so intriguing. I want to know more about the type of people you see, like the cases. You just mentioned the fertility thing, and I don't mean to cut you off, but like I have so many women who are like, what is wrong with my body? Like they're literally freaking out because they want to so badly be a mom or they so badly want to start a family. And they're like, why is my body not responding? And then they go down this really dark hole of shame and guilt and frustration of like, what have they done or not done? Like, it's all my fault, which is, I don't want to say fine, but it's okay to have an awareness to some things. And ultimately what that shakes down to is, okay, to your point, there's a solution to this. Like, if I can get there, the other day I was having a conversation with a friend and I'm like, listen, I didn't get fat and overweight and unhealthy and toxic and heavy metal that, burdened overnight. Like it was a culmination of a lot of bad decisions or unfortunate decisions that led me into this path. And then all of a sudden one day I was like, holy shit, I got to get out of this. And I got myself into it. I can get myself out of it. And it's not going to be overnight and it's going to be some steps, but there's this awareness of there has to be some solutions. And the fertility conversation, not my wheelhouse at all by any stretch, but I have a lot of friends who have gone down a really dark, bumpy path of not being able to conceive. And then they come and see you, or they switch, they start to understand, why is the body not responding or conceiving? So I'll turn it back over to you and you can share.
For one thing, I think one of the most important things to consider is that 50%, a full 50% of fertility issues, genetic issues with kids, everything comes from the dad. Okay. So like,
oh, interesting.
50%. So 50% of miscarriages, 50% of failed in pregnancy, like all of those things are 50% for the man. So to me, if we start working with women and we do the things and she's testing consistently well, and within 3 to 6 months they're not pregnant, I'm like, I need to see your husband. But I do think one of the most foundational conversations we have in clinical nutrition is around Pottinger's cats. So not to get into like the scientific anything, but the quick backstory of that is that in the 1950s, Dr. Francis Pottinger had a tuberculosis clinic and he was doing adrenalectomies on cats, meaning taking out their adrenal glands and studying them for whatever reason. And he was feeding the cats cooked meat scraps and condensed milk and the things that he believed cats should be eating. And then during the course of the study, he was donated a few hundred cats, couldn't afford to feed them the same way. So he was getting nose to tail butcher scraps, raw, and raw milk from wherever he could get it, and started feeding. And so he kept the cats separate, and it became a study on nutrition because the cats eating the raw food and the raw milk were so healthy, happy, playful, vibrant, fertile. And the cats eating the cooked food and condensed milk within 3 to 4 generations had behavioral issues, arthritis. The female cats were becoming aggressive and the male cats were becoming docile. We see that do we see that at all?
I was going to say, ding.
When within 4 generations, they were completely sterile or giving birth to stillborns. So then he turned it around, and it took 3 generations to undo the damage that eating that food had done. And so I look at it, I'm like, okay, what generation Pottinger's cats are you? Because humans just are slowly mirroring that study, right? We got to turn it around in a big way. And so I've seen over the last 11 years, people get better, not get better. And a lot of it has to do with the rest of the lifestyle and the rest of the mindset. And so to know and understand momentum, like one healthy meal doesn't make you healthy, just like one unhealthy meal doesn't make you unhealthy. Exactly. Which is why, to me, like if I can't go to an airport and eat whatever the heck I want, then how healthy really am I? That's
exactly
that. Like I don't want to live in a world where I can't be able to do whatever I want to do. I actually just did a turn and burn yesterday to DC and back, and I had the best freaking Euro pita thing in the airport ever, and probably wasn't the cleanest thing on earth, but I feel amazing because I do enough things right that you can do those things.
Exactly.
But you have this buildup and it's generational. So we pass on our toxins in the generations, which is why, like, even the vaccine conversation, not to get into it, but it, you know, when they say I had them and I was fine, well, first of all, you had 6 and now there's 78 or 72, or it's more now just in the past 2 years. But we also were born with that toxic load from our parents and our grandparents. And so that's just an obvious one because we know that heavy metals and these adjuvants go in to the bloodstream and pass the blood-brain barrier with those things. But it's everything else too, right? It's the antibiotic use. It's the Prilosec use. It's the diasoda use. It's the microbiome of the gut. Your baby's gut can't be healthier than yours. And then you figure how many C-section babies we have. And a lot of the babies that have issues are C-section. And that's not coming from a place of judgment. I want the best outcome for everyone too. And most of the doctors who are pushing those things are well-meaning people. Like, there's good people in a broken system. So we just like peel that back one layer at a time. And I actually have like multiple families where I take care of 4 generations.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
A mom, and then the daughter got pregnant. And now grandma's coming, which is the great grandma. And you probably see their dogs. And so it's just, that's to me is like, okay, we're reversing Pottinger's cats. And I for sure am very passionate about this. But then I was like, we need to have more of the conversation because we have our structural body, we have our chemical, meaning like nutritional body, and then we have our emotional body, and we work a lot with nutrition and emotions, and we send everybody for the structural work and everything else. But you can't separate natural health, emotions, and mindset. Like, you just can't separate those things. And when one gets worse, they all get worse. When one gets better, they all get better. And so in the nutrition conversation, a lot of my clients are very, very overwhelmed. Because honestly, even in the past 11 years, I used to see 3 or 4 supplements change people's lives. And that still happens. But to maintain things, people need a lot more support now because of everything that's been just thrown at us in the past few years, from a physiological standpoint, but also like a mental stress standpoint. Like, our nervous systems are dysregulated because of all the stress that was like the fear-based stuff that was happening. So mindset's so important. Making sure people know that living authentically is the number one most important thing that they can do for their health, like across the board.
And this topic just rolls right in Soul Set, and why I know you're so passionate about this. You and I've riffed on this conversation. It's exactly, I got into saunas, right? I started Open Generate Wellness, and it was more of a place for people to come and use these modalities, which I know Symmetry has a ton of these modalities as well. But over the years, the conversations that I've had with my people, I'll call it my network, is like, it's around the mindset and the positive thinking and like the hope and the vitality of the mind and nourishing the mind. And it's all about relationships. It's all about loving yourself. It's about taking care of yourself. And yes, going through the motions, whether it's physical fitness or doing these modalities, but really it's around the health of our mind. And we have been inundated, just absolutely blasted with all of this stuff. I mean, we could go
from so many directions.
Yeah, I was going to say, we could talk, everything from politics to religion to health to beliefs. mean, I know more people getting divorced in the last couple of years than ever in my life because of the amount of people that are realizing that their relationships aren't supportive, like their friendships, their marriages, their overall relationships are just not supportive. And so many people in general, like their life is breaking down. Like they've decided, I can't even put a number on it, but a lot of women who are like, I need to get out of this relationship, or these friendships are no longer serving me. They're just deciding to nourish their mind and nourish their souls, like people quitting their jobs. The amount of people are like, I'm done here, just walking away, don't care, don't know where I'm going, don't know what I'm doing, I have no idea, but I know this doesn't feel good and this isn't alignment. This doesn't feel like a place I want to be anymore. And their heart and their gut are telling them, get out. And so that to me, and again, the soul set rising that you have created, it goes in hand, I think, with the actual nutrition piece, right? Obviously, but it's like these things need to rise in parallel, like they need to rise. And so the best way that I like to describe it, Mark and I were just talking this morning over our coffee, was like, I like to measure it in pillars. Like we have these pillars in our life and everybody can decide what their pillars are. But for me, it's my spiritual, it's my faith, it's my relationships, obviously marriage, it's my occupation or my passion, it's my family. Like all of these things, you need to have abundance in all of these areas in order for your entire life, in my opinion, to like really elevate. And so for me, if I'm not working out, if I'm not doing my yoga, if I'm not doing my morning routine, if Mark and I are missing our walks or we're not doing our thing consistently, that's going to create a complete ripple and backstep, basically, or that's going to affect other areas of my life. It's going to affect how I perform in my job. It's going to affect how much time I give to calling my mom and seeing what she's doing because, it just affects all areas of our life. So when we can support and nourish our minds and our souls and our spirit, I think that's foundational. I think that moves the needle on everything else in every other area of your life. And I'm talking with my hands right now and I realize people can't see that. I'm always talking with my hands because visually I just like to visualize like this tide, like we all, like the tide rises together, right? Like if we're all in these ships, we're all floating out in the ocean, we're all in our boats. Nobody wants to be out there in a bunch of bumpy waters, or we're all going down this river together. Like we all need to go and flow, right? We all need to go together. And when the tide rises, we all rise together. And I think you and I can agree that the consciousness of humanity is definitely rising. And as much as I feel like we're in this chaotic shitstorm right now, or there's like a lot moving and shaking and falling away, I think the things that are falling away and the things that people are letting go is all for the better. I think that it's all shaping out to be better and more positive. I feel that. I have a lot of hope and gratitude for the decisions that people are making. I see so many people making hard choices or making hard decisions in their life, but it's for the good of their life. It's going to bring more abundance to their life. It's going to bring more abundance to their relationships. Maybe you have to let that best friend go. Maybe you have to let that relationship go. Maybe you have to let that job go. But ultimately, it's a stepping stone to get you to the next phase of amazing or the next phase of spiritual alignment, in my opinion. So talk to me about Soul Set Rising. I mean, talk to my listeners. I talk to the listeners. I know all about it, but I'm so excited for you to step into this next piece and do it along with what you're already brilliant, the symmetry piece of it.
Yeah. So everything you said, I'm just like, oh my gosh, yes, momentum, right? And then the fact that it's basically a badge of honor to say that you're busy and you're running ragged and you're in debt up to your ears. And we're just so conditioned around these things and I have wine every night, or I need this, or I can't live without caffeine or whatever. And like, we try to be good friends and good spouses and all of these things. But like, where do you actually fill your cup? It's when you're like investing in yourself, and what we invest in expands. You and I both know this greatly. So Soul Set Rising is a place where you get to invest in yourself and your time, where we create a vision and help curate it. Right. So like, it's me just being there to say like, if you took away the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of success, what would you really want? What does it look like? How do you create it? And then saying, okay, now that we have this kind of vision, Now let's look at all these concepts like self-sabotage and limiting beliefs and emotional health. And we even talk about, like, one of my whole sections is on finding your superpowers, because like I think gratitude is my superpower. And so teaching people what their superpowers are, and then being able to identify superpowers in their kids and their family and their coworkers and all these things. And then every 6 months we come back to vision, and you look at it and you're like, why was I thinking so small? Every freaking 6 months this happens. It's incredible. And so
it's good.
It's designed to be like, hey, you only have to hop on a call or watch the replays a couple times a month, right? But like, you'll pay $24 to sit in on a yoga class or whatever. And this is like, you just pay for this opportunity throughout the month to say, I'm investing in this time in myself, because it's not just the money, it's the time. And it's saying, I'm setting this aside for myself, and I'm going to write the journal prompt, or I'm going to put down the goals, and I'm going to do the things. And we actually, some of my calls, like, is not a whole lot of me talking, because I'm like, I want you guys to think about this, do this, visualize this. Because if we don't do it, and it's like, first of all, I did, school was not my jam. Homework wasn't my jam.
Same.
None of it. I could test really well, thankfully. Not that that even got me anywhere that I wanted to go. But I was like, soul set will never feel like homework. But it's also the fact that if I say, okay, this is a visualization that can change your life, when we hang up, nobody's doing it, because it's either homework or they're too busy or everything. So we do it right in the calls, and or like right while you're watching the replay, and you know exactly how much time it's going to take. And then we have in-person events that are really cool to get together. It's definitely been like a passion that comes through. I mean, the energy is obviously there, but when you have individual one-on-one, like I've been working with one-on-one clients, tens of thousands of one-on-one clients over the, like, visits over the years, with 4,000 clients in 11 years and all these things, and then practitioners and trainings and all that. And then to be able to go into Soul Set, which is a group setting, and know that the vibration of the group just can hold such a higher frequency for everyone, and that wherever it is, it brings everybody up no matter where they are. So we talk about like moving up the emotional scale or anything like that. And to be able to give my kids the perspective of like, yeah, you can do that and try that, but we're not going to do it just because everyone else is doing it, or just because we've been conditioned to believe that this is the way. And so it's stripping down a lot of conditioning. And we do talk a lot about social conditioning and that. And that comes back to the health piece. That's where it's like inseparable, because a lot of what we're doing because of our health and diet and food and medication and everything else is all a function of just being conditioned to believe that that's the way. And
it's just a decision.
That's okay. Exactly. That's okay. But it's like, then if you're like, I feel like there's something else in another way, then those are my people, right?
Yeah, exactly. Those are my people as well. That's why we have the same people. And we've been in a lot of these groups too. When you're talking about the container of the space and the electric frequency, I mean, a million times over. I mean, anybody listening to this that's ever been a part of a collective group or a coaching program or gets in and around a group of other people. I mean, some days you show up and you're fire. You've got all the energy and you're contributing, you've got all these things, and it's like electric. And there are other days where you need to feed off of, and you need that support of other people. And that's what moves you forward too, is knowing that you don't always have to have it, right? But you can get into these containers and these groups of other people where it's like, here's the vision, here's the purpose, here's the intention. And it allows you to get up out of your funk. And so when you talk about the exchange of money, like money is such an interesting conversation that we can have a whole podcast just on the conversation of money and the energetic exchange of that. But for me, I see money as like a screen door, right? It's like it flows in, it flows out. Like it flows in, it flows out. Like for me, I need money to support my lifestyle. It's the vehicle to support my lifestyle so that I can enjoy myself as well as do what I love. And so whenever I'm exchanging money for something like a coaching program or some sort of experience, like I'm happy to write that check. I'm happy to give that exchange, because I feel like that's the exchange for the investment in myself. And if I don't do that, I'm telling myself subconsciously, you're not worthy. You aren't worth this. All day long, I'm like, I don't, half the time when I go into programs, I'm like, I don't even know what they cost. I'm just going to do it. Like, the BAM trip, actually.
You know that it'll come back tenfold.
Yeah. When you were talking about the BAM trip, I was like, I'm doing that. I don't even know how much it costs. Like, I just emailed Sarah, take care of that. Like, that's an experience that I want to have. And I know that that is something that's going to be life-changing. And I'm willing to exchange some money that I earned to, or earn's even an interesting word, that I've received. Yeah. It's money that I've received for doing something I enjoy. And in return, I'm going to give it to somebody else to go do something they enjoy. Like when you step back at the money conversation, it's so interesting to me. But what you're doing is investing in your health and your well-being, and you're getting in and around people, other like-minded people, because I'm a firm believer that the frequency, basically, you're going to attract and magnetize the people in the frequency that you want to be in and around. So you end up in this amazing group of people who have the same frequency, and you all just feed off of each other and support each other and love each other and hold that space. So I absolutely love, obviously, what you're doing. Like, I mean, there's so many reasons why this makes sense to do in alignment with the nutrition or the supplementation or whatever it is that you need to support the body, but just helping to nourish the entire body, again, going back to the pillars, just feels so good. And I'm excited for you.
It's cool because there's a lot, okay, there's not a lot of what I'm doing, but there's a lot of ungrounded people doing things. Not that that's not coming from a place of like judgment or thinking, but if someone's ungrounded in their own self, then it can be hard and that can like flow through. So I have been through so many cool, really freaking cool things in my career. And to see the grounded version versus the ungrounded version, and to know that so many people are teaching things like, oh, you don't need all this, you don't need all that, that's whatever. But it's like, but you needed that when you started, right? And so it's like making sure that you don't skip those foundations or those basics. And that's something I learned in nutrition is I know how to do the really tough cases now. Like I can get it all the way in there, but you can't skip the foundations. You can't skip the basics, and you cannot allow yourself to underestimate the potential and the power of those foundations. And so it's just like that in the mindset space. It's like, if you need bumpers in the beginning, nobody tells a kid when they're like a super bowler, they're like, oh, you don't need bumpers to be a good bowler. I'm a good bowler and I don't have bumpers. Well, shit, everybody had them when they started, right?
Yeah.
So
we all had training wheels.
Yeah. And if you're trying to like, if you have subconscious programming that's like so deeply ingrained in you, and it's like, well, just think differently. It's not that easy. Right. And you have to explain what it is first and create that awareness and like not skip the foundations. And so even for advanced people, they still usually appreciate and love being in Soul Set because it's the reminder that you still need the foundations. You can't skip it. Just meditating, like that never gets to be a place of like, oh, you graduated, now you don't have to do it anymore. Or you've eaten enough healthy food that you don't even have to eat healthy food anymore. Or you've exercised enough that you don't need to keep exercising. That never happens.
That's not a thing. Yeah, that's not a thing. It has to be a lifestyle. I mean, that's essentially what I've moved into, like the Jen Heller lifestyle. It's like, well, what does that mean? It's like, it embodies a lifestyle. It's whatever that looks like for you. I'm not going to tell you what you have to do. You get to design that. You're going to design that, and whatever that looks like. And talking about foundations and like skipping things, you and I've talked a million times over about different stories and lessons and things we've learned over the last, our entire lifetime. But just even in the last 10, 15 years of going down this path of discovery of not only helping and serving other people, but like I would not skip, there's some really hard lessons along the way, right? And especially being a business owner and being able to be on these platforms and help people, like you mess up. There are things along the way. You're like, okay, I would do that differently. And it's just like not beating yourself up and having the awareness to know, like, it's just feedback. It's just feedback. I think you and I talked about that, 2 weeks ago? I texted you about a situation. I was like, interesting feedback, isn't it? It's just interesting feedback all the time. Like Mark and I were talking about that on our walk last night about something in his business. And I'm like, you know what? It's just feedback. And instead of looking at it as, oh, that didn't work, or that was a failure, or that was a waste of time, or that feels terrible. It's like, if you step back and you're like, it's only helping you get better. It's just sharpening your saw so that you can keep moving forward. It's just interesting feedback and awareness, but you can't skip those. You can't skip that, because otherwise, how would you know? You have to live in the contrast. You have to go through that. You have to have the emotions. You have to feel the feels. You have to sit with that. And you have to understand the difference of being awake and aware and numb. I want to think about somebody that I miss or something that's happened, or just sometimes I'm like overwhelmed with gratitude and just like heart-centered open, and I'm just emotionally charged helping somebody. A lot of times when I sit through like my own inner work, sound baths, or I spend a day at a women's retreat, or I do something for myself, I'm crying like half the day. I'm just like, I'm releasing and crying, and I'm like feeling all of the emotions of the awareness of sitting through it. And so that's a long way around for me to say, like, you have to appreciate the foundational work and the time that it's going to take to sit through those things and move through those things, because when you get through them, you look back or you look in the rear view mirror and you're like, oh, thank God. Like, thank God I got through that. And thank God I now know what I need to know, right? So that can apply to just about everything.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we aren't trying to get anybody to skip the mistakes or the lessons, because if you don't have it yourself and you don't have that firsthand experience of that, you don't learn from it. And morale comes from production, right? It's like you do something when you're running a mile, it feels hard and stressful, but then when you're done, you feel good, and you don't get that without doing it. And so I also like to talk about, in both symmetry and soul set, the line between stress and distress. It's a fine line between stress and distress. Stress makes you stronger, distress makes you weaker, right? So like recognizing that. And so if you have a marathon runner and someone who's just starting, running 5 miles is stress on the runner and it's distress on the beginner, right? So you cannot compare yourself in any way to other people, because what's stress and helping them could be very well distress on you. It just depends. But you also have to know, okay, am I saying it's distress because it's really fucking uncomfortable, right? And do I need to do it anyways? Because this is not going to feel good all the time. It just doesn't. Healing doesn't feel good. I mean, you ever like, one of my cousins juiced like 16 ounces of beets and drank it, and she threw up for a long time. Now, distress. But like in general, if you fast or you do things that are really healthy, you go through emotions, you go through physical things. You look at like with kids, end of viruses, often the very end of it is this rash. And then moms are like, oh my gosh, I can't handle one more thing. And you're like, that's it. That's the end of it. But the body's pushing it out and it's still not comfortable, but you're past it and you're almost there. So it's like, keep pushing through resistance, because you want things to be in the flow, right? And you want it to feel very like, oh man, I'm unstoppable and everything else. But you also have to know when you're being challenged with resistance to know, I just need to actually push through this resistance if it's something that's important. And you got to check in with yourself. And most people are going so 8,000 miles an hour that they're not stopping to check in with their intuition or their own guidance system to say, this is not in alignment with what I even want. So it's like, I tell people, I'm like, soul set for some people is just a massive freaking pause. It's a break. It's a slow down and listen to yourself and what you would tell yourself in this situation to try to get back into alignment. And I mean, I had a girl the other night and we were talking about just getting clear about what you want and then having like the self-worth and self-value. And she was literally manifesting self-worth. And I'm like, that's such a beautiful thing. Even though you think you need self-worth to manifest, if you're manifesting self-worth, that's a good place to start. And you do the same tools in the same way. But for somebody who already has confidence in everything, that conversation is going to look really different. But just like recovering my son from autism, I use the same tools to help someone through digestive issues or Lyme or depression. It's the same thing in the mindset world. If you use the tools, you can go from wherever you are, even if it's down in that guilt and shame and really like sadness place, or anger or resentment or jealousy. You can bring yourself up to courage. That's neutral. And then once you can get to courage, you can turn the corner into the higher vibe emotions, or you can be at happiness and fucking want peace. And you use the same tools to get there and level up.
Exactly. Oh, love it all. I wonder if we could have all day just to talk about this.
I think we should do it in person one time too, because that would be so fun to just like actually just like kick back, have our cats and stuff, and just be like, okay, this is it. Now we're just going to sit here and solve all the world's problems.
I know. That would be cool. We definitely would be messing around with this internet that kind of bounces in and out.
I know.
And again, and being in the vibration of each other. I mean, just being in company with other people, like energetics, like there's nothing that compares to being in a room with somebody, especially high vibe, and just chat about all this stuff. Now, I will say Janice and Jimmy don't travel well. So I'm going to need that come. Yeah, they're not having it.
I'll come to you.
I come to you. I'll head to your place because I'd really love to meet yours. And I'm always on the way up to Rhinelander anyways. But Janice is not a traveler, let me tell you. And Jimmy, no, they're two, we rescued them and they were bonded. And we were told, like, I remember the lady, because Mark's always trying to get like 75 other cats in our house. And I'll never forget what the lady at the rescue said. She's like, Janice is bonded with Jimmy. They go together. They were found together on the side of a highway, I guess, as little kittens. But she doesn't play well with other cats and she doesn't like a whole lot of people. And I was like, noted. And I thought, well, I can appreciate she warms up to people and she loves, like, she's a talker, she's got like this raspy voice. Janis Joplin is, I guess, where it came from, but she's not having getting in a cat carrier and going down the road. So she's like, no, this is her home. This is her sanctuary. This is her palace. So I definitely love it. And I love that you are a cat person now. Like,
I didn't even know. I mean, I just knew I couldn't get a puppy. I'm actually dog sitting right now. So that was another thing. I'm like, okay, I got my kids in the house. You can see one of their feet right there.
I see.
And I got one sleeping. And then I'm dog sitting. So I'm like, is he going to bark? We'll see. This is just always an adventure. And my baby Sage, she's the boss of everyone. And she's the runt and she's the tiny one. And then Ivy thinks that she's the princess. And Sage thinks she's the mom. But Ivy thinks that she's just being pampered. And so it just all works really well. I'm loving the cat life and like learning so much. But I was going to say, you reminded me earlier, I was just synchronicities and how funny this is. When we did the expo at the CrossFit Games with the saunas in 2018, me, my brother, and my mom got the tickets into the finals. My trainer was in the finals that year. What? And so I would have watched him and he podiumed that year. And now, full circle, that's who I train with. Isn't that cool?
No way. That is cool. It's such a big, small world all the time. Like
he didn't live here either. He lived in Arizona at the time.
No kidding.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Oh my gosh, that is wild. And now I'm reminiscing about our CrossFit days. That's so crazy. That was 6 years ago. 6 years ago already?
Yeah, because the first CrossFit Games I went to, I was nursing Bodhi. He was only a month old and everyone was so supportive. And then the next year was when I was with you and we set up the saunas. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We didn't even talk about the saunas today. How amazing they are. That's okay. Everybody already knows. You have it in your house. You have it at the clinic. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows how cool saunas are. So, oh my gosh. Okay. Tell everybody how they can find you, SoulSet, the clinic. Like where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, so my Facebook personal page has pretty much everything. I drive a lot of my business and personal, because honestly, I am my brand, right? Like my lifestyle and my family and what we do is as much of my brand for Symmetry and SoulSet as anything. So my personal Facebook page is Alexandra Hartinger. That's the best place to connect. And then if you keep scrolling, at some point, you're probably going to think I'm crazy. And then it'll, if you keep scrolling a little further, then you'll be like, okay, no, she's cool. But Symmetry Natural Health is our website. The SoulSet website is still under construction, but we do have a tab on the Symmetry page for that. You can schedule from the website, which is cool. Not that everybody's just going to go straight to that, but the Symmetry, the cool part is that we've worked a lot of distance over the past few years. So we have most of our clients are in person, but we have clients for Symmetry Natural Health in about 20 states right now. And then SoulSet's completely virtual. So going through that space, I'm happy to answer questions. I'm slowly growing an Instagram page for SoulSet Rising, so there you can check that out.
Go real slow on that. I'm in the same boat. It's like, oh yeah, gosh.
I love it, but I also I'm growing SoulSet in a very sustainable, consistent way, and I want the growth to be there, but I also don't want the vibe to shift too much too quickly. So it's been a really cool thing. I think we have around 30 members so far. And my goal is thousands, right? There will be thousands because then people will meet up at the in-person events and be able to meet each other that they've known online and everything else. And it's going to be so cool. But it's just a baby, right? It's so funny because I'm skipping around, but my landscaping girl, she's like, if you ever want me to do anything extra, you just let me know. And I was like, you know how when you have a newborn and you don't care what your yard looks like or your kitchen looks like that's where I'm at. So I just had a business and I'm not sleeping and I just don't care about anything else. And so just, we can just get through this year and we can maybe talk about the landscaping next year. But SoulSet is mostly, check out the Symmetry website. We have a really awesome free group in Facebook. We have an exclusive group too for our members, but the free group is called SoulSet Rising Mindset and Lifestyle. I just created a 30-day holistic detox. I just had a whole bunch of people complete it. There's 10 tasks on there. It's reminiscent of a Whole30 and 75 Hard, but the girl version. Not that it's easier, but because it's more complete for what the feminine needs, not the masculine.
Ooh, love it.
There's 10 tasks, and the whole idea, because I'm not a purist, is that you have to check off 8 a day. And so then you have really no excuses, because if you mess up your food one day, fine, but you better check 8 other boxes. There's movement, there's making sure that you're nourishing your body, eating mindfully and sitting down and being present when you're eating, which really tripped a lot of people up. But there's things in there like some digital detox, home environment upgrades, meaning just do some things that you stop walking past the broken lamp and pick it up. And that's literally one of your tasks for the day or whatever. So we talk about personal brand upgrades because, for 30 days, if you dressed up to run errands, would it change your life, right? So it's personal brand and those types of things are in there. It's just because it's your vibration outward, inward, and beyond you. And so it's a holistic detox because you're raising the vibration and detoxing the lower vibrations of things. It's not just a diet, right? Even the diet piece, if that's not what you hit in a day, that's okay, right? But you do have to have a strong intention around finishing those things. So the holistic detox is big in that group, and that's going to be something that we're going to continue to do, and people can start anytime, but we'll probably do another big push to start like a group collective one in September once everybody's kind of like getting over the summer stuff. But the holistic detox is definitely going to be something that will help people have an awareness of, if they can do that, do you need soul set or do you need symmetry or do you need both? Because it's going to illuminate the places of your life where you really need the most support and self-love. And the whole premise around it is like radical self-care and profound self-love. And so that's the goal and the idea. So I think I answered your question.
I was going to say, I think you nailed it. You fucking nailed it. Yeah, all of those things. And what's interesting, and I don't want to get too derailed here, but interesting, like the food thing, it's so funny because I feel like I know so many people that have their food on point. Like their food and their working out might be on point, but all of these other things are super chaotic. And so again, going back to what we were talking about earlier about the pillars, like shining a light on the areas of your life that you need to work on and bring more abundance into that so that it all feels good, because you can just eat all the right things and that's great. But if your mind is like not in the right space, or you're in a toxic relationship, or you need to let something go that's just really, really dragging you down.
Yeah.
These steps that, going through the holistic detox is going to shine a bright light on what you might need to do to support yourself in every other way. So I love that. We're going to have all of these links. So if people are frantically writing notes or freaking out that it's all going to be in the show notes. Everyone's going to know where to find Alex. And I agree. Your Facebook page is hilarious because there are some days where like, she is crazy, but I freaking love her. And then 2 minutes later, you're like, oh, and there's the cats. Like, it humanizes.
It's pretty
it all.
raw. I'm an oversharer at the core. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No. You're not an oversharer. I think you're just real. And I think that that's why so many people love you. And that's why you have such a huge community of people, because you go so deep on your relationships. You are not a surface level person. That's one of the reasons why I love you and why we've been friends for so long. Even if we don't chat for months for whatever reason, because we have a million things going on, I'll shoot you a voice text and be like, hey, what's up? How are you? Just knowing that we're still interaligned, but you are not a surface level person. You're all in and you love hard. And I love that about you. And anybody who knows you knows that about you. So we will definitely get anybody over that wants to check out Soulset or check out the clinic. Real quick, do you have any openings left in the Sedona retreat, or are you full on that?
We have 2 spots in the house left. So that's a great point. Yeah, we have 2 spots in the house. So we have a mindset retreat coming up in Sedona in September. It's a Thursday to Sunday. We have a huge, amazing, awesome Airbnb. It'll be full of people and good food. It'll be around mindset, emotions, and self-sabotage.
Oh my gosh. I am so sad that I cannot attend this event, but I'm going to Banff. So we've talked about that. There's just no way for me. I do feel like I'm a multitasker, but there's no way for me to be in Banff and Sedona at the same time.
You're doing the right thing. And Sedona 2.0 next year, you're sleeping in my bed with me. We just joke because there's like all these bedrooms and all these rooms and all these things, but then how do you put people together, right? And so it's okay. So those of us who know each other, we're all cramming in together into the rooms. Yeah, so that the people who don't necessarily know each other can have a little bit of space to themselves.
Exactly.
No one want it.
I was going to say, we'll be talking and we'll want to be in the same room because it'd be like, let's go take this conversation in here. But no, I'm excited for Banff. I'm excited for Sedona for you. What a vortex. What an energetic place for you to go. So anybody who wants to check that out, please follow or find Alex and she will set you up. Thank you so much. Again, we're going to definitely have a part 2, part 3, part 5. I'm sure we'll do it together. I appreciate you. Obviously, today is America's freedom loving birthday. So God bless America. Everyone listening to this.
That.
We're going to go celebrate that. So we'll talk to you later.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen.
Thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you. If you love this episode, please leave a rating and review on Apple and Spotify. This helps me expand my reach to other health and wellness enthusiasts. If you're interested in purchasing a clear light sauna, have a topic request, or just want to connect with me, please head over to my site, jenhellerlifestyle.com.